All right, new headphones. How do they look, Joe? Are we doing good? First and foremost, shout out Steve Donahue for mentioning me in his recent video, My Last Book Haul of 2021. Link is down below in the description. Check it out. Shout out Steve. If you are here from Steve's channel, thank you. Welcome. I am not going to ramble. I left academia for a reason. Slowly but surely, I am unfettering myself. But now let's get into it. The pleasures of reading. Is reading even pleasurable? I'm drinking coffee out of a glass because I'm unhinged. The pleasures of reading. Is reading even pleasurable? That is the question. Maybe yes, maybe no. The short answer is that it depends. Regarding the longer answer, though, I hope that one, you'll stick around for a few more minutes to find out what I have to say, and two, that you will leave this video with enough fresh and meaningful insights to motivate you to read and enhance your reading experience. Maybe you need motivation, maybe you don't. Maybe you just leave with a deeper appreciation for reading. But wait, back to what I was saying. Is reading even pleasurable? Neil Gaiman thinks it is, and he has read a lot, and he's also written a lot. And one of the things he wrote just so happens to be the quote that I'm building today's video around, and it is as follows. He wrote, "A book is a dream that you hold in your hand." So that is a pretty cool quote, if you ask me. What exactly does it mean? I will share my thoughts with you in today's video and hopefully do all of the wonderful things I mentioned before. Fingers crossed. And Steve, fingers crossed, no droning. I am talking about the pleasures of reading because I want the pleasures of reading to color your educational experience so that you can achieve your goals and actualize your full potential, so that your reading experience is optimized, which I know sounds lofty, but like I've said before, and like I will say again, I used to teach undergraduate literature courses and creative writing courses at Johns Hopkins University while I was earning my master's degree. And now that I've completed my coursework and graduated, I've come to YouTube because I love talking about reading and writing and helping people master these subjects, but I don't like working for universities. So my point is that if that sounds interesting, I hope you'll subscribe and like this video so that you can see more of my content. And also leave me a comment in the comment section down below explaining to me your experience with reading and writing so that I can tailor my videos to you. Anyways, though, all plugs aside, let's get into my top 3 pleasures of reading. Each pleasure is going to start with a quote. So, number 1. Quote, "The reading of all good books is like conversation with the finest people of the past centuries." So Descartes wrote this, and I think it is awesome. It puts me in the frame of mind where I'm like, oh yeah, if you organize words correctly, they can outlive empires. Side note, that is one of the reasons why I enjoy reading old texts. But we're moving. Time is ticking, and I am moving with it fluidly, not droning on. I'll say first and foremost that I understand not everybody's go-to books are from the past centuries. And fair enough. For me personally, though, I really enjoy reading the material that people have been reading for centuries and will continue to read. I like consuming art that feels greater than me. So we're on the subject of reading classics, and sometimes you have to hype yourself up to read, these windy, messy beasts. And the way I do it, the way I hype up the experience is by convincing myself that I'm somehow like connecting my consciousness with not only the authors, but all those who enjoyed the text before me, which I guess I am technically doing that. I guess that's what reading is. Some examples, there's like obviously, Shakespeare, In Search of Lost Time. I talk about that book all the time, that novel, that beast. Yeah, Crime and Punishment, The Brothers K, Dante, Robinson Crusoe, Don Quixote, etc., etc. We can obviously criticize the canon until the cows come home, but that's not what today's video is all about. Maybe that is another video. Your time is valuable, my time is valuable. We're listening to Steve. We have to move with the clock. Closing out my number one pleasure of reading. It's highlighted by Descartes' words, what I said at the beginning. Reading a great book, a book which we enjoy, is akin to a conversation with a fine person. When I read a great work that is centuries old, it's like not only are you just consuming the text, and yeah, the text is old, it's outlived empires, but again, Descartes' words, you're having a conversation with somebody whose words lasted that long, which have stood the test of time, and that's so incredible to me. And it is a little lofty, it is a little silly, but I think it's beautiful, I think it's valuable. It helps me read books that are difficult to read, and I hope it does the same for you. But moving on. Number 2, reading is thinking thoughts that aren't our own and learning as a result. Another painfully basic take, but hopefully insightful at the same time. All right, so this next quote is a Fran Lebowitz quote. So let's do it. Quote, "Think before you speak, read before you write." Words are food. This is something I have talked about in plenty of videos before. I love the quote because everybody's heard the saying, think before you speak, and we know what that means, and I think this quote is valuable because it communicates that thinking is to reading what speaking is to writing. If you want to be a better thinker and a better speaker, you got to read and you got to write. It's all connected, and that frame of mind, again, helps motivate me to maintain my reading habit and maintain my writing habit because, those two things are notoriously kind of difficult to do. Anyways, moving on. I think understanding that thinking is to reading what speaking is to writing is useful for anyone who's interested in getting the most out of the time they spend reading and also writing. So one of the other pleasures of reading, at least in my opinion, is that it's a more sophisticated form of thinking. It's something that I've talked about in more videos than I can count. When we read, we're effectively learning and exploring new ways of thinking. We're thinking thoughts that aren't our own, which, yes, might happen every time that we consume any sort of content, but reading is different, in my opinion. Reading requires engagement that is uniquely active. Why does that idea make reading more pleasurable in my mind? Because conceptualizing the act in this way makes the act of doing it more meaningful and more enjoyable. When we read, we're training ourselves to think. This is why I've recommended reading all of a single author's work at one time and just plowing through it if you can manage it. If you can find that author that speaks to you, my best recommendation, my best suggestion is just dive in and plow through it all. It might take you 6 months, it might take you 12 months, it might take you longer, but the benefits, I think, of just sitting with one person's words for an extended period of time, it's unmatched. For an author like Joyce, this would look like reading Dubliners, Portrait, Ulysses, and if you can stand the waters, Finnegan's Wake. For Toni Morrison, if we're talking her novels, it'd look like, reading The Bluest Eye, then Sula, then Song of Solomon, then Tar Baby, and so on and so forth. Doing this will align your stream of consciousness with the authors over an extended period of time. The way they see the world merges with your own. Their style rubs off on you. I repeat, their style, their way of thinking rubs off on you given enough time. The most extreme reading experience I've ever had was when I read In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust. I could feel my way of thinking and speaking and writing change as a result of the influence Proust's style had on me. So, to reiterate, think before you speak, read before you write, and understand that reading is learning from the style of another person's thoughts. Moving on. Number 3, reading offers us greater access to language. So there's a Jim Rohn quote that I'm going to read, and I'll say who he is if you don't know who he is, but anyways, we're going to go. Quote, "Reading is essential for those who seek to rise above the ordinary." So Jim Rohn is a rich American guy, and I barely know who he is, but I think the quote is worth remembering. So he's not necessarily a writer, but I think the quote still does matter, especially if we're talking about the pleasures of reading. So the purpose of this video is to help you enjoy reading more and to help you, as a consequence, get more out of reading. The project of this channel is to help you harness the powers of mankind's most universally applicable subjects, reading and writing, so that you can use words better when you're living your daily life. In the quote that I mentioned a moment ago, I interpret the phrase rise above the ordinary as basically meaning, to become better than we otherwise would be. I think it was meant differently. I think Jim Rohn is this kind of business guy, big capitalist dude. What's his net worth? See? Oh yeah, 500 million. Yeah, he's loaded. Okay. I think Jim Rohn probably meant something different, but I don't like what I think he meant, so I'm going to make it something else. And if you have a problem with that, leave me a comment. But let me try to clarify what I mean. For me, reading is pleasurable because language offers us greater specificity than any other art form. And for that reason, reading can offer us valuable roadmaps forward. We become more than ourselves by reading. When we read, our style of thinking evolves. I can expose my consciousness to a mode of being and ways of, capital S, seeing that are carefully and intentionally articulated, and then I can both consciously and unconsciously make that a part of me. As a result, when I close the book I'm reading, little pieces of the author stay with me. They follow me out into the world, and I draw on them without even realizing it. I analyze a series of events in a Joycean way, or a Proustian way, or a Morrisonian way. Is that right? My point is that reading helps us make ourselves more extraordinary than we would otherwise be. Reading helps us evolve. It helps us become something more than we ordinarily are. Reading makes us better versions of ourselves. Have I hyped reading up enough to you? I hope so. And that's that. I've talked a lot about writers in this video. If you're a writer, check out this video. One tip every aspiring writer needs to know, because when I talk about reading, I inevitably talk about writing, and I think they're very connected. And if you don't have a writing habit, you should, with a commonplace book or something, a journal, whatever, anything. But anyways, if you found this video useful or interesting, I hope you'll subscribe and smash like so that you see more of my stuff. And I also hope, like I said at the beginning, that you will introduce yourself in the comments section down below and tell me about your experience with reading and writing so that I can more effectively tailor my content to you. And as always, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.